environment. It turned out not to be so. So we'll see if this time it pans out. Looks like it, though. Thanks for that, Claire Pride in the newsroom. Hard to find many other places in Europe where you could start by saying the following: "Oh, the joy of being an incumbent." Well, Angela Merkel still riding high in the polls ahead of a September election that could see the conservative leader win a third stint as German chancellor. With unemployment low, exports booming, her biggest challenge seems to be, well, refraining from lecturing her European counterparts. With France teetering on recession, Germany's the only game in town, it seems, when it comes to calling the shots in Europe, and that is sometimes sparking resentment. It wasn't the plan, says the Germans. So what is the plan? What do the Germans really want for Europe and for themselves? Today in the France 24 debate, Germany, it's lonely at the top. And with us to talk about it from Brussels, Martin Bohne. He's the EU correspondent for German public broadcaster MDR Info. Thank you for being with us. Here in the studio, freelance reporter Ulrike Koltermann is with us, as is Paris-based German entrepreneur Jakob Hessler, boss of high-tech data cruncher Tiny Clues. Thank you for being with us. And to Jean-Paul Betbez, banker and founder of Betbez Advisors, the France 24 debate, where you can always join the conversation on Facebook and on Twitter, where our hashtag is F24debate. Is it lonely at the top? Yes, if you listen to Germany's finance minister, who plays down talk of a Europe tailored to suit Berlin's needs.
It is the worst thing for Germany if someone talks about a German Europe. We do everything to prove this impression wrong.
Martin Bohne, is Wolfgang Schäuble being sincere when he says that?
I think Wolfgang Schäuble is sincere, but it has also to be said that Wolfgang Schäuble is, let's say, the last European in German politics. He is a man that knows the time of war. He knows what Europe means to Germany, that German integration into Europe is really an absolutely necessary thing. I don't say that others don't think this, but Wolfgang Schäuble is really of this generation where the European integration is in the blood of the politicians. I think Schäuble is a big European.
He's a big Europhile. Ulrike Koltermann, how many people share that view of kind of, uneasiness at being, alone at the top?
Germany doesn't really want to be alone at the top, and the economic success right now is not only Merkel, it's also the fruit of the reforms by Schröder. So it means that people are happy that it's going well in Germany, but they don't want to be there alone on the top. They know that they need a very strong France, and that Europe as a whole needs to progress, because otherwise it doesn't make sense. Europe has to compete with countries like Brazil, India, China. And so there is a very big awareness that Europe must go on. It doesn't make sense if only Germany is successful.
This wasn't the way perhaps the blueprint was laid out, but do you agree that this is really how Germans feel, Jean-Paul?
Yeah, because it makes sense. If you are really alone at the top, as you say, your top is not so high. Because at the end of the day, you will have more tensions within the European, family, I would say, within Spain, in Italy, or something like that, and it will end very badly. So if we have a situation in which, of course, Germany is in a good shape and Germany is a winner within the crisis, okay? But it cannot be the winner at the expense of the others. And this would be, in my mind, dramatic. It doesn't want to be this, and de facto it works, hardly to have this kind of evolution. But at the same time, he says to the others, please make reforms. And what you say, for example, when Schröder, 10 years ago made reforms, now it pays. Okay, and the story is that they say to the other, Germany says to the other, please make reforms, and by the same time, I pay the checks. So this is the kind of German ambiguity, but my understanding, and it works, and it will be someday understood.
Right, the German ambiguity. Now, by the way, Wolfgang Schäuble making those remarks in the company of his French counterpart on Tuesday. So while Berlin is downplaying its role as Europe's paymaster, Paris shrugging off its sometimes feckless image.
It's true that France thinks today that it doesn't need austerity. But France is also a very serious and credible country. I promise here in Berlin that we will stay on this course.
Jakob Hessler, when you hear the French finance minister there, can this imbalance be redressed between the Franco-German couple?
I think there are some notions about what causes or constitute that imbalance, and I think there is a big, in my view, a big confusion about what is commonly referred to as austerity, which is admittedly and often quite sometimes nonsensical relative percentage of spending. And so obviously if your budget target is 3% and of GDP, and due to a crisis your GDP goes down, obviously you need to redouble the effort at the times when things go bad.
But when the French finance minister says he promises to stay the course on being sensible, do you believe him?
I believe he's sincere. I think it's hard to do, because what it really means is precisely, and that's I think where the ill calculation of François Hollande when he started resides in. He thought that by just tightening the belt a little bit, then, end of 2013, growth would come back and it will all be good. The problem is that I think he underestimated the need for structural change, and that is much, much harder to do, because that has to do with disengaging the role of the state. It means changing some of the ways in which the economy is governed, and that is hard to do because it has vested interests on all sides of the table, not only on the left for that matter. And there, if you're a social democrat and you believe in it, then you will want to do that, but it will be tough.
Okay, so you're saying is he's sincere, but he won't be able to keep his promise.
I'm not saying he won't be able, but it will be tough. They'll need determination that so far they haven't exactly shown.
Well, he said it in Berlin. He should have said it in Paris, to be sincere. That makes all the difference. And France has been telling it for a while that it will happen and growth will come back and we will have a budget and we will remain under 3%. It's been going on for years and for years. But neither during the election campaign nor after. Since he was elected, Hollande never really made it clear to the French people that reforms are absolutely necessary and that it will be tough for them. And so it doesn't make sense if they only have a finance minister talking in Berlin that everything will be sorted out. They need to talk to the French taxpayers and the French people that things will change in France, and they need structural reforms and probably according to the German model, but the Germans have started it a long time ago.
I would disagree. I would disagree, because I think the German model cannot serve as a reference for France, I think. And that is precisely why it is so difficult. Now, I would agree, yes, France needs to do structural reform about the public sector, but and it needs to lower some of the social charges, all that good things.
Payroll taxes and such.
But that won't get them there. That's the really tough message. Look at East Germany. If the German model had been so easy to be rolled out, well, wouldn't you have expected that in the former Eastern Germany, they've been together for what was it now, 13 years? The kind of economic tissue that actually creates the wealth in Germany has nothing to do with the fact that the service jobs in Germany are cheap. That contributes to the really low employment rate of unskilled labor. But the wealth is being created by people who are being paid 30-40% more than their counterparts in French factories, because they are present in many markets, because they're export-oriented, because they have innovative products that are priced highly and not in mid-market prices, so you can have a premium, which then allows you to reinvest in innovation. There's an economic tissue of research, of small companies, of large companies, and that explains the success of Germany, and it's an export-oriented success. And arithmetic will tell you, in any case, in Europe, not everyone can be a successful exporter unless you find out that people on the moon will buy all our goods. And so the real tough question is, what is it, in what sectors, in what industries, how are you going to create economic surplus over time in a sustainable and durable fashion, with industry, that needs to be strengthened, but it can't be only industry, etc., etc. That, in my view, is the real tough challenge, and I completely agree that it's not a question of left or right, of Sarkozy or Hollande. None of them has really addressed it, and I think the decline of the industry under Sarkozy was quite similar to what we see before.
Martin Bona, do the Germans accept that? Well, the French can't be the Germans; they're always going to be the French, or are they growing sick and tired of Paris?
No, I think that in Germany there's a lot of conscience that France can't be Germany, and as was already said by others in this discussion, the German way, there's no real German way that we wanted to impose on other countries. Of course, Germany is for consolidation of budgets, but not in a very strict way. We accepted that France now gets 2 years more to go down to the 3% of the Stability Pact. But it's always clear that France has to do reforms. That was the point from the beginning when François Hollande won the elections. That was a big fear in Germany that he isn't able to impose these reforms, even if he would do. If he would like to impose these reforms. So that's the problem, that in Germany we don't really believe in the possibility and the capacity of François Hollande and other French politicians before to do these important and necessary structural reforms.
Is it too late, Jean-Paul Belpez?
No, it takes time. To have a Mittelstand, it takes time. And second, it doesn't rest merely on the politicians. Let us pay attention to companies, and things are changing within companies, and things really are important in this matter. Something like one month ago, there had been an agreement between the unions and the patronat, we said
the French Business Leaders Association
MEDEF in French, yeah. And so that you have something on the line of what was decided 10 years ago in Germany.
A first loosening of labor law in this country in decades.
In the situation where, when you do not have sales or something like that, you have an arrangement, an organization within the company so that people work shorter hours and are paid less or something like that. But by the situation, you keep the people. Okay, this was accepted some 1 month ago, and the law passed. And this is something brand new. And there will be new elements, this kind of reform, because the question of reforms, we must be something like practical. What do you mean? Okay, and what I mean is some kind of flexibility, some kind of organization, some transparency, sometimes of some sort of agreement and discussion between the unions, between patrons, employers, and employees, and things are changing.
So would you characterize this as a Germanization of France?
It is. I do believe it, because the Schröder story arts, everyone saw in France that it was terrible. By French standards, you had a revolution. 10 years after, you have full employment. Okay, so people do.
But the guy who instituted those reforms, where is he now? He's in his party's in the opposition.
Yeah, okay. Everyone understands this. But who knows within 5 years or 10 years? And when you are a political people, you work for the company. You work for your country. And Schröder said a word which is social democrat. And for the moment, Mr. Hollande does not say it very openly. He has to say, I am social democrat. So I am in favor of discussion, debate, and organization and arrangement. And he has to cut with the far left, what is in my mind is doing.
I think the main problem in France is that there is not even the consensus, not even in the government. I mean, Hollande is trying to be more business friendly and talking about attracting investors to France, but let's just pick out a very recent example of Yahoo trying to buy 75% of Dailymotion, and a French minister blocking it, saying there was an interest of the state not to let it go into foreign hands. So that's a very typical example how it is working in France now. If Hollande is not even able to keep the whole government on one line and to send a signal, a very strong signal in what direction to go. It won't work.
A government is not necessarily an orchestra. They may be, people playing different roles. But my understanding, you are right, it will not last. And this kind of discrepancy is a consequence of the election. And when Mr. Hollande was elected, he was elected on two grounds, on something which was social democrat on one side and something which was far left and more left. And now this has to be, in my mind, clarified.
Yeah, it has to be clarified, and he's got to sever the ties with one of the two camps. So,
yeah, but you have to find you have to find, new guys to be with you. And this is a problem.
So that Jean-Paul Betbez is looking at we've talked about the Germanization of France, but about Germany on Twitter, you're not very nice, it seems. You wrote, the Germany we love consumes, gives pay raises, shares its successes, finances its neighbors, not sure it exists.
Yeah, no, this is because we dream. Because we dream of some kind of Germany that would help us without reforms. Okay, when we say we would love a Germany that consumes, that helps us, without asking, this Germany does not exist. Of course, I'm serious when I mean it, and of course we are dreaming of something that doesn't exist. C'est pas le Père Noël, as we say in French. Okay,
it's not Father Christmas.
It's not Santa Claus. It's not Santa Claus. It doesn't exist. We have to be realistic, and but at the same time, the way Germany is working is really useful for us because he asks reforms and he pays the bill. Never forget. Then when everyone says, "I will help Germany, I will help Cyprus, I will help," and these are my billions.
But this fact is not really seen by the French public opinion.
Yes, it is. My understanding is that without the system of Angela, it doesn't work. Because Germany is, in a sense, the most credible, element within the organization. But
yeah, sure. I mean, they're the biggest. They pay the bills.
Yeah, but when you say, for example, I just ask, when you say 3%, 3%, it's 3% of deficit. Okay, never forget, it's not 3% of excess. We are considering within 2 years to have 3% of deficit, and someday we must have an excess, a superavit, and we do not have this here in mind.
That's not going to happen in France
because we have been a deficit for 30 years, so we have to change
since the 1970s.
Yeah.
When we come back, we're going to look a little bit more closely at the German model and ask what's so great about it. Stay with us.